Screen share. Okay. So this is your classroom then, so I apologize completely. Okay, so in your Google Classroom, we are going to have your update pages right here. Same kind of thing. Anything that I need to share with you will be shared through this main update page. As you go in to look for your classwork, it's going to be up here under classwork. Yours is going to be under we have topics set up for Google Classroom. So introduction to blended instruction is our first topic. Everything is set up exactly the same. It's the exact same things, but yours are set up through Google Docs rather than the Schoology classroom. So everything looks exactly the same as what we just went over in Schoology, but you'll be accessing it through Google Docs. And I really apologize, you guys. I am so sorry. But you have the same instructional videos. You have the, oh man, I just got out of it. Hold on. My goodness. Let's just, there we go. And now classroom. Nope, wrong one. Come on, get into the right one. This is not the start I wanted for you guys. I'm just mortified right now. Okay. So your topic here for this week is the introduction to blended instruction. It's the same assignments. When you guys click on to view your assignments, you'll have a submit assignment button, and you can see that it's assigned to 9 of you right now. Once you get in the course and join through the join code, you'll be able to create your own folder within Google Classroom, which you'll be able to share your assignments to me with. So that's how you'll be accessing those assignments. And under classwork again, your assignments are exactly the same. This competency licensing agreement, this is the only part we hadn't gone over in the Schoology. So your assignments are exactly the same. They have not changed from the different platform. This licensing agreement down here at the very bottom is in case we see something, like if you're really proud of what you're creating and you want to share it with other educators, this just gives ILC the permission to share that information out with other teachers. So that's what that competency agreement is. It's completely optional, and that's how that just gives permission to ILC to change. So if you look up here on your grades task, that's where you'll be able to see all of the different assignments up here. You'll see any feedback that I leave you in here. You can post individual messages and comments on your assignments once you're in here. If you have questions on your assignment, if you're working and you just need a quick question answered, you can leave a comment on your assignment. And so really that is Google Classroom. And Google Classroom is very easy to use. You can incorporate Google Slides, Pear Decks, Nearpods, all sorts of different aspects into your Google Classroom. So now that you've kind of seen how to get into your Google Classroom, what's going to happen is Jill Pellegrini is going to send out a code right after this webinar, and that code is going to give you access to this course. So what you will do is you will go to Google Classroom, and when you go to Google Classroom, and you can hit the plus and join class. And so that's how you are going to join your class, all right? Any questions on Google Classroom now that I've messed it up completely and had to go back and redo that for you?
I don't see the grades tab on mine. Is there a reason?
It may be because the course doesn't actually start until after 11 today. So you might not see the assignments until 11 after the webinar. They didn't want the assignments to be accessed before you guys got the instructional webinar.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And Leah, thank you for sharing that. Yes, I will have a recording available to all of you. Yes. Okay. Great job, you guys. Okay, so now I'm going to go into our presentation for today. I'm going to show you lots of really good examples. We're going to talk about the models of blended learning, and then we're going to have time for some question and answers at the end. Okay, do we have any questions before I get started? All righty. Sharing my screen again. Okay. All right, so some of this stuff we've already gone over. That's me. Here's all my information again. So this will have my email and my phone number on it in case you need it. We're going to walk through Google Classroom. We've done that. We're defining blended instruction today. We're examining various blended models. And then we're exploring the shifting roles of teachers and students through a blended model. And then I really want to help you understand how technology integration supports blended instruction and how differentiation and personalization can really make a difference in deep learning. And then we're going to answer any questions you might have. So you guys are going to be completing 4 competencies, I believe. The 3 of them are all about blended learning instruction, blend best practices, and then creating digital content. The 4th content is a little bit different, and it's where we talk about OER, Open Educational Resources. And you guys will be going through that, and that will give you access to the DCW. The DCW are our courses that are prepared and ready for use. They are filled with content. They just need to be personalized by the teacher. So after that 4th competency, you will have access to that. So that's pretty much where we are. We've gone over our grading and communications for the week and what it's going to look like. We did that. And now let's get into our big instruction. So why blended instruction? Why do we need to change the way we are teaching? Well, we have to change the way teachers are being taught so that we can change the way students are being taught. We have to transform our teacher training so that our students get better instruction in their classroom. And the picture on the upper left indicates we've never had so much technology before. We've never had the capabilities of meeting students where they are like we do now. We need to be embracing and utilizing technology to be able to meet our students where they are and get them to where they need to be. That goes to the next image on the upper right, which is the globe with all the kids. We've never been so globally connected, and especially now, think of coronavirus, and that's even one more big connection between everyone. And we want to be able to establish global connections and really work through connecting students in other countries and connecting our world to be one world instead of many countries. We really want to try to unify some things. With blended instruction, we also really want to make sure that the globe has equity and that the kids around the world and in our classrooms all over the United States have the same access to technology and to our resources. And that's really where the OER comes in. And then the next picture is the job in education. And that's the idea that our students are working for jobs that haven't been even thought of yet, that we have to transform their 21st century skills to be able to move forward and be ready for those positions when they come available. So what is blended instruction though? Well, blended instruction is where students have some control over the place, the time, the path, or the pace of the learning. So the place, are they learning at home or are they learning online? Are they learning in a hybrid environment? The student has choice in one of these 4 aspects. The time, do they get to work late at night? Like I can tell you a lot of my seniors like to work from 9:30 to 1 in the morning. Do they have a chance to choose the path they're going to be on? Are they on a traditional graduation path? Are they on the trade school path? Or maybe are they on a targeted graduation path where they have to earn credits back because they're so deficient? And then the pace is, how fast are they going? An example of this is right now I'm running a 4-week summer school for my seniors at my Jeffco Virtual Academy, and it's a 16-week course given in only 4 weeks. So that is a very credit advanced course where they're earning their credit in 4 weeks rather than a whole semester. So they're choosing the pace of how fast they're going. So that's a really hard class where each day of work of the week is a week's worth of work. So the student has some control over place, time, path, or pace. Students also learn away from home in a supervised brick and mortar location. So in blended instruction, you're probably going to have some brick and mortar and some online instruction. And then we really want to make sure that all of the connections on that student's learning path are together and available for that student at the same time. So what does that mean? For me, that means like on Wednesdays at my middle school program, all of our middle school students are there. All of the middle school teachers are there. All of the middle school counselors are there. Anyone who has buy-in to that level, that group, they should be there together. Whether that's in person, whether that's online, you need to have a component where everyone can be together and everything can be found. And for us, we have Wednesdays on campus, and then we also have a middle school website, which has everything incorporated that they could need. So you're giving them access to your content or materials outside of the traditional hours. This screen is a word cloud of some of the things that people are most excited about when coming into the blended learning and the personalized learning. So we can see student-led ownership, competency-based. These are just the big ideas that come out of blended learning. What I want you to do in your chat box right now is to look at these words and decide which one you most identify with. So if you could tell me what you are most looking forward to about blended learning, and if you don't see it on the screen, then please type it in for me. We can always add to our word cloud. So any new words are great too. I'm going to leave the screen sharing just so I can see what's happening in the chat real quick. Student-centered, competency-based, innovation, yes. Blended, student-centered, competency-based, yes, yes. Ownership, student-centered. These are things that we're going to, next week is my favorite webinar, and we get into all student-centered choice and voice. This week, we're going to talk just about the models, but get excited because we're getting into the meat. So here we go. I'm going to start sharing my screen again, and we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of today. Okay. And view presentation. Perfect. Okay, so blended learning, competency-based, personalized learning, and project-based really all fall under the umbrella of universal design for learning. And this is where I start to geek out. Universal design for learning is one of my favorite things to talk about. There are 3 principles of universal design for learning. And again, I'm not going to walk you through every single little aspect of these things because I want you to explore them and then come back to me with questions, and I want to respect your time. But there are 3 principles of universal design for learning, and that is you have to have multiple means of engagement, meaning your students have to have multiple ways of interacting with you in your course to be successful. You cannot just expect one sit and get way. You have to provide options for how your students can interact with your classroom. The second principle is multiple means of representation, meaning you can't just give them one video or one reading about a topic and expect them to get it. The more and more you prepare and collect materials and provide options for your students in how they interact with your materials, the better they will do. Not only with representation, but it will give you a bank of resources to then use for differentiation and supportive elements for your kiddos. So the more resources that you can combine and gather, the better set you will be for your differentiation. And then lastly, this is the most important aspect for kids showing work, is multiple means of action and expression. Students need to be able to show you that they know the learning in multiple different ways. They should be able to have some choice and voice in showing you what they know. So providing options in how assignments are completed and how students interact with the materials. There's a video linked on the upper right as well. So if you need to learn more about UDL, CAST.org, CAST.org is a wonderful, wonderful organization that provides all sorts of different supports for teachers for free. So that's one of the big resources that I want you to write down today is CAST.org. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going through the degrees of blended learning. What we're really going to be doing today is we're spending time on the rotation and the flipped, and then we're going to get a brief introduction to these two. We're focusing on these two mainly because I think with COVID, with everything happening in our world right now with schools, we don't know what it's going to look like necessarily when we go back. And these two are where most teachers feel most comfortable starting with blended learning. And these three can always be added into the other ones. So these models can be melded together and take aspect of here, and you can create custom models. So by starting with the rotation and the flipped, we're going to give you a really solid foundation. And if you want to then move into bringing some of the a la carte, enriched, and flex models in, you'll be able to do that fairly easily. So we're going to talk first today about the station rotation models. And elementary school teachers, this is where a lot of you feel most comfortable right off the bat because of your stations and centers that you may already be doing. Middle school and high school teachers, this might feel a little weird for you at first, but it is a really great strategy. Station rotation normally happens at a brick and mortar school. It can happen on a teacher level, like in an individual classroom level. It could happen on a team level, or it could happen on a school level, just depending on your level of organization. With station rotations, students are going to rotate through groups within the classroom or the school, however your foundation is set up. Some examples of station rotation. So for this example, this is an elementary 4th grade class where students are starting to work on reading adverbs and really putting them to use and using them as descriptive words and getting more familiar. And so, so what we've got here are 3 different stations that this teacher has set up. And this teacher is starting with a teacher-led station. And so she's providing students with a piece of paper to fold into 4 sections. She's labeling them into how, why, when, and where. And students are then going to independently write a sentence demonstrating how, when, and where an adverb in each designated section, underlining the adverb in their sentence. Students then share their sentences as a group and they identify where the adverbs were used. And this is kind of like a mini lesson. This teacher-led station is going to prepare the students for the other lessons that they're going to go into. So if you want to present something to your entire class, you might want to start with a teacher-led station or a mini lesson. If you want to have a station where the teacher is like doing a check-in, you can also add a 4th station to this. So if you want to start with a mini lesson and then have 3 stations after that, that's perfectly okay. You're not limited to a number of stations. What you want to think of is that each station roughly takes about the same amount of time. So on the 2nd station then, a partner is going to play the Turtle Diary online game. So we're gamifying the adverb lesson. We're getting the kids to play a game and to practice what they just learned. Each pair of students is then going to grab a baggie with note cards, and their partners are they're going to practice the adverbs and the game, and they're going to complete the sentences together. Then after that, the students will submit the sheet, and they'll turn that in as their exit ticket for that station. For station 3, the kids are going to move and they're going to watch a adverb song. Do you qualify? All of these examples you can click on. I will put these links in our classroom later today for you. And they're going to look at adventures with adverbs, and then they're going to take the next turn-in box to their exit ticket. So that's a 4th grade example. Here's a 7th grade example where, again, this teacher starts off with a mini lesson to get everybody on the same page before they move into their 2 other stations. So students select a chapter from their assigned novels. Each student has choice and voice in regarding which novel they choose. And then they are going to log into their Blogger account, and they're going to use the summary chart worksheet, and they're going to go through in the teacher approved theme songs. They have to decide what theme song would go for each chapter. So they are identifying the theme of the book, and then they're going to write a blog about what soundtrack songs they would pick for each chapter and why. And they have to fill out the summary chart to explain why that song fits. Then they get to watch a Lucy and Ethel rap. And so it's a fun activity where they get to watch a silly video, but then they have to use that same summary chart that they just practiced with the teacher. So they're getting the I do, we do, you do format, just in a different method. Then on the third station here, students will watch a video and write a summary. Then notice they have other videos, other articles to read. And then again, they're looking at what the summary is. They're doing that same summary chart again now on their own. So those are a couple different examples of station rotations. An example from one of my 6th grade classes was I did a mini lesson on claim and evidence and how to use evidence to prove your claim. And then we got children's books out. So I did the mini lesson first. Then kids got to choose which children's book they wanted to read. So based on which children's book they wanted to read, they were grouped then. They read the stories. They worked on finding a claim in their short stories and providing evidence for that. And then they had to switch, and they had to make sure that they could put these were all very common children's books that they should have been able to know the background of. So then they would switch groups, and they would make sure that the groups got their claims correct, and they would grade each other on their work and practice. And then at the end, they came back and we worked on claim and evidence, and I gave them their actual prompts, another short mini lesson. Then based on which prompt they had chosen, they split into station rotation groups again and worked to brainstorm their prompts with evidence and claim together. Then they moved to the last individual rotation where after they had their brainstorming activity with the group, they actually wrote their own PEA paragraph proving the claim and evidence. So that's one from my personal classroom as well. When you're planning a station rotation lesson, you want to make sure that you have your communications very clear, especially if you are back in the classroom. You want to utilize your transition times. Some teachers utilize their transition times by playing a song, ringing a little bell, but this is still just good teaching practice here. You have to have your classroom management skills in place for these rotations to work well. Otherwise, rotation moving can take too long, that can get too distracted. So you want to have your classroom management skills up to date and with real rules and regulations for how you want the transition time to go. Think about writing a linear lesson plan for your class so they don't have to do anything in a specific order, that they can build on the skills no matter what activities they're doing. So looking at like the children's book, they didn't have to have anything in a particular order at the very beginning until we got to the writing prompt. So they could have been in any group for the activities at that point. You want to try to have at least some teacher-led instruction. You want to also remember that the teacher-led instruction should be more one-on-one. Because you've got stations going with expectations, you should be able then to have more one-on-one time with students to deeply get to know your students, to deeply get to know where they're struggling, and to help them identify where their gaps are. We should also really be ready for differentiated practice. So again, that comes down to that UDL of having more materials than you really need. But then again, you never know what you're going to need with any group of students until you're there. So by being prepared, you're more ready to be a differentiated and responsive teacher. Online exploration is huge. These web quests are great for rotations. Having them look into the biography or the history of people, having them find a personal connection, small group discussions. Those are the activities that go really, really well at station rotation. Really just try to keep those activities that they're the same amount of time. You really don't want to go have one station taking 30 minutes and one taking 15 and one taking 10. You want to try to move everything together. So down on the bottom right of our slides, you'll see Catlin Tucker, her email or her website down there. She has got a template for station rotation lessons that is fabulous. And she's got lots of examples on there as well. So again, my goal today is to present a lot at you and then let you process and come back with questions. So I'm going to move forward to our next model, which is the flip model. And the flip model is where you present a little bit of content before your kids come to school or come to your class so that you are getting into the deep learning. You're not getting the sit and get instruction anymore. You're having your kids do the lecture or the video at home, coming in prepared for the lesson so that you can be more hands-on and more interactive with your students when they are there. So I'm going to walk you through a flipped classroom example. And what I mean by this is an example from one of my 6th grade classes. And so we're going to start. This is that second presentation, guys, that I put in the chat box for you today. And this was an actual PD I put together for iLearn, and I'm just going to pull from different aspects of it. However, I have shared this professional development with you. So if you'd like to use it, share it. It is available for you. But really, the flipped classroom is taking Bloom's taxonomy and taking that pyramid and flipping it. So instead of giving our kids the remembering and understanding in class, they're doing that at home before they ever get to us. Then in class, they're applying and analyzing. And after our class, they're evaluating and creating. All right. So this is from my 6th grade classroom. And at this point, my 6th grade classroom was very small. I only had 12 students, I think. And of those 12 students, only 8 actually came to school. So what that means is for Jeffco Virtual Academy, my middle school, on Wednesdays, all middle school students come in, except for our BOCES students. Our BOCES students live in Durango, and so they don't drive 7 hours on Wednesdays to come see us. But our kids that are in Lakewood, in Jefferson County, they drive to our school, and they come from 9 to 2 for an instructional day. And it's a face-to-face day where they get social emotional learning, they get teacher rotations for all core classes. The elective teachers come. Everyone involved with our middle school is there and ready to support our students. Teacher rotations only get 45 minutes, though, of that day. So of that 9 to 2 time that the kids are on campus with us, I only see my kids for 45 minutes all week. So I have to be extremely purposeful with my 45 minutes. And my students are at home the other 4 days. So the last thing I want to do when I actually see them is to give them another computer assignment. And so this is an example of the flipped classroom. And so on this particular week in my course, you can see that I've given them a pacing guide. Now, I give my students a pacing guide every single week, and I think it's one of the most important aspects of blended learning. Students need to know what is expected of them every day. Students need to know what they need to be completing every day. This is just one more way of helping to keep my students accountable, is by helping them plan their calendars. And so I give them exactly what needs to be done on each day. And so you can see on this day, they are coming to campus on Wednesday. So they have 2 days of flipped learning before they come to see me and we do our face-to-face instruction. So what my kiddos are going to be doing then is they're getting their welcome. We're looking at author's purpose here. I've got a fun introductory video. You'll notice that I used the green and orange, and that's because I'm using it to identify author's purpose and separate text structures. Color is a really great way of interacting and adding support for your students. If they see it's in color, they're going to understand that it's important. And my students are so funny, and they start to catch on. Hey, Ms. Hetzel, did you know all the vocab words were green and orange this week? I did. It was on purpose. So it's really fun to talk to them about design choices too, so that they understand. I do present the learning target at the beginning, but my students are expected to work through the learning targets themselves. So every week they will have an assignment of looking at the learning target and actually processing what it means and figuring out what they're going to be doing. So that's this part on the left side. So they're actually interacting with that learning target and predicting what we're going to be doing this week. And then our first assignment is you get to choose how you want to learn about author's purpose. And so this is me providing that universal design for learning of multiple means of representation. So I've provided a video, a PowerPoint, and a handout for my students to look through, or they can choose to use all four. Then they have to take notes on what author's purpose is. Now, I also give them options on how to take notes. They can be handwritten, they can be 2-column notes, they could be sketch notes, they could be 1-pagers. I give them options and I provide templates and rubrics for how I would be grading that as well. The next assignment that they do is they have to learn and understand what the flow chart of author's purpose is. And so they work through a couple articles and try to figure it out. And so I give them short little paragraphs and they have to practice using the author's purpose flow chart. Once they have gotten 100% on that author's purpose flow chart activity, then they are moved into the author's purpose game. This is where I'm gamifying my instruction and letting them practice the skills that I want them to know. But this time we're doing an author's purpose game where it's kind of like Sorry, if you've played it before, and they have different questions that they have to get right. They have to submit screenshots to me of their scores. They have to win at least 3 games, and then they can move on and be ready for the next assignment. And these assignments, we're in Schoology, so these are a little bit different than what you guys would see. But they had a quiz and they had to answer all different types. And so then I got to see where they were. This is my data. This is where I could see who was doing well and who needed extra support so that I was ready for Wednesday when they came to see me. And then this is what we did on campus. So on Wednesday, when they came to see me, we have a scavenger hunt to do. So instead of being on our computers, instead of doing sit and get instruction, we were out in our building throughout our 3 little temporary buildings that we have, walking through, looking at signs, looking at posters, looking at different books that people had on their desk. And my kiddos had to take that flow chart with them, and they had to make sure they knew what the author's purpose was for everything that they were looking at. They were looking at everything from handicap signs that was informing people that you can't park there. There was a movie poster and they were deciding that that was for entertainment value. So looking at all those things, they had to actually go find and use the author's purpose. And then at the end, again, I always want to check in with my students. I want to know how they feel their learning went. So this is just one silly assignment that I do. The thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle. If it's anything but a thumbs up, my kiddos are getting a call from me. We're having a one-on-one meeting. We're making sure that their questions are getting answered. So that's an example from my flipped classroom. Another flip example here is we could look at outside of class, you want your students to watch a YouTube video on thermal expansion. You want to make a list of questions and you want them to come to class with the list of questions ready to respond to, or even a discussion board that they've posted those questions to, so that you are prepared to answer those questions. Again, this is helping your students be more self-directed. When we get into next week's webinar about voice and choice, we're really going to get into that self-directed learning. But if you can help your students start identifying where they're missing a concept or where they're struggling or where they get confused, they're going to be able to help themselves get caught up even easier, okay? In class, you're going to have the discussion questions on thermal expansion. You're going to watch the video. For anyone that didn't do the video assignments, you're going to let them watch the video in class and they're going to be a little bit behind. But what's going to happen as you continually start to use this flipped classroom is you're going to see your kids are much more engaged and excited when they're in your class. And they're going to understand that if they do this work at home, then they get to do the fun stuff in your class rather than doing the boring sit and get part. So, you know, as you practice, you're going to go through probably 2 or 3 lessons and you're going to see more kids getting involved in each one because they're going to want to have the fun rather than sitting and not doing the hands-on part. So when they're hands-on on this example, they're going to make predictions about the lab. What do they think is going to happen? Then they're actually going to conduct the jumping coins experiment. After the class, they're going to discuss and respond to follow-up questions, and then they can have an online discussion with partners in small groups where they show their observations. So when you're planning a flip lesson, again, we want to make it extremely purposeful. Why are they watching this at home? Why are they doing this at home? What is the purpose? Why are you doing this? So you have to have that why before you can plan this, because you want to make sure that you're making this purposeful. We're not just sending them home with more homework to sit and get the next day. We're sending them home with pre-work so that we can have more hands-on learning in the classroom where they are creating and analyzing and digging into that work, where they need your support more than the trying to figure out the basics. Post your materials in your Google Classroom or your LMS. Clearly state your expectations for your students, especially in the online environment. You want to make sure that you have very clear expectations on what's expected in discussion boards, what's expected, you know, comment-wise. What are you looking for lengthwise? You really want to state your expectations as clearly as possible. Your in-class activities that reinforce learning, you want to really try to provide immediate feedback. That's that data, so that you can be a responsive teacher to that video, to whatever it was that the kids did at home. You want to have feedback so that they can move forward and get ready for the next step. You're going to want to have class discussions and activities to promote collaboration. And you're really going to want that that learning experience to have purpose for why they're doing this at home. So let your kids know. Be very open with them. Look, you're doing this part at home so we can have more fun in class and we can do an experiment, so that you don't just have to watch a video, you can do something. Now we're going to get into those other 3 models, and this part of the presentation goes fairly quickly because, like I said, we spent most of our time on examples from those other 2. Now, the flex, the enriched, and the a la carte can always be added in to the station rotation or the flip model, or you can even add station rotations into the flex. So please know you can customize which models you want to use and what strategies you want to take out. That's the beautiful thing about blended learning, is every teacher can create their own personal blended classroom using these models. The flex model is usually where students meet face-to-face with students at least 2 days a week. They are online the remainder of the week, and then the teacher utilizes online content and resources to deliver instruction. This is something I think we could be seeing as a future for the COVID and what we schools are planning. This is where all of your materials are going to be put up on Google Classroom. You are going to have your information readily available for your students. And then you are going to supplement that instruction online with 2 days a week. So maybe you're doing the labs those days. Maybe you're having students work in different groups those days. So when we look at a flex example, I'm going to share an example from my school again, Jeffco Virtual Academy. Our TAG program is for 17 and up. We have recently even had a 55-year-old person join our program to earn their high school diploma. So there is a wide variety of ranges of age for our program here. But the TAG program meets on Tuesdays. And our TAG program is the kiddos that are really behind in credits, that need to graduate, or that are looking to graduate. So they need to take fast courses to try to catch up. So we offer Edgenuity courses. And in our TAG program, they come on Tuesdays from 9 to 1. During that time from 9 to 1, students are broken down into different areas depending on what they need. So some students are going into a breakout room for tech training, and we have all sorts of different companies and people that come in, like we just had a prosthetics doctor come in and show how he makes prosthetics, and another guy came in and showed the kids how to weld. And so depending on what their interest is, they will go to the breakout room if they've signed up for that. In one room, we've got the math department working through all the math courses. In another area, we've got the English teachers, we've got the counselors, we've got the program director who's meeting with parents, and then we've got the counselors that are working with the kids daily, or weekly, excuse me. So just depending on what that student needs is what they're going to get when they come to campus. The a la carte is where students are predominantly online. Schedules include a mix of online and face-to-face. It's really up to the teacher. But online learning takes place remotely or on site. So you may be on campus, but doing an assignment online. The enriched model is also where I see a lot of schools going for next year. The enriched model is where we actually need to put our day-to-day content and assignments that we do with our students in our traditional classrooms. We need to start putting that online. We need to be able to deliver that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We need our kids to be able to access that information. That means they have access to the learning, even when they don't have access to you or the traditional classroom. That means putting up your discussions, your assignments, having your Google Docs, your classroom set up with your docs and your assignments for the day, and really working through giving them that extra support of having all the materials online. So if you're not in a teaching role and you're a counselor, this might mean that you need to create a website to hold your most important materials, or that you need to have a Schoology classroom for your students to be able to get into Naviance, or whatever it may be. You want to be able to offer whatever you need to do in person and find a way to do that online and enrich with the virtual classroom. So when we're looking at an a la carte enriched virtual example, we're going to look at Kiddom down here. This example walks you through tons of different examples. Again, in your classroom, you've got a Google Doc that has all sorts of examples and resources. Those of you that are the K2 teachers, we are adding more and more resources every day, but know that the examples are hard to come by, and we're creating them as we go with these courses. So we are adding more every single day, but that you have much more today than what was there for the last course. So Kiddom has some great examples. Feel free to reach out there. The last part of our webinar today is to think about the shifting roles that blended learning works through in our classrooms. And so the main things that we want to be seeing is that the teacher is no longer the sage on the stage. They are not standing and delivering. They are not lecturing. The teacher is becoming a coach, a tutor, an encourager, and a celebrator. We want the students to own their own learning. We want to be able, as teachers, to facilitate deep learning and discussion and collaboration. And we really want students to own their own data, not just here in Colorado or at your school, but against their peers in the state, against their peers across the world. We want our students understanding and knowing how they're doing in terms of comparison to others around the world. We really want teachers designing problem-based opportunities for extensions for learning. And we want to become a collaborator and a communicator. We want our students to become researchers and creators. And we really want to show them the power of a team and what can be done with more heads, with more brains. And then for teachers, we really want to be able to set up more differentiation to personalize and assess and get actionable feedback. Because we're not sitting in front of the stage on the stage, you should be walking around one-on-one with your students much, much more. You should be interacting with them more. You should be getting to know them on a deeper level. The deeper level you know them by, the more you'll get to see their choices and their voice. And as you see their choices and voice, that relationship will be even stronger because you start to see what they want to learn about, and you'll start getting ideas on how to personalize work for even more for your students. Like, for example, I had an 8th grader who was a very sweet boy, but he was really adamant about not reading about, he did not want to have to put effort into anything. Just very stagnant, just stuck, not wanting to do anything. And yet once I got him talking about what he really was interested in, and that he was really interested into cars and building an engine, and once we started focusing his reading and his assignments about to turn even English assignments into things about engines and cars, his enthusiasm, his learning went through the roof, his skills. He had a 99% growth on my map from his CSAP skill from the same time last year. A 99% growth, just because I found out he likes engines, just because I let him talk about engines all the time. If that's all I need to do, that makes my job so much easier. I just know I need to make sure for Dante, he needs cars, he needs engine stuff. So once you get to know your students that much more personally, it's that much easier to help them grow. The technology instruction versus blended instruction. And so this is where we want to have that purpose behind our technology again. Technology integration is just taking a student to a computer lab to do research. They would be looking at, yeah, this is cool, I'm using this for getting my kids engaged. At least they'll be happy and working during class. Maybe using clickers, or maybe playing a content game. That's not blended instruction though. Just using technology is not blended instruction. We need to take it to the next depth of learning. So instead of just taking the kids to the computer lab, we're going to have them go to the computer lab, and we're going to find and research from an online space and provide peer feedback on that assignment. We're going to have, instead of just using technology, we're going to have the teachers and the students in control, the students in control of using that technology to gain reflection of their own learning, to find where they needed more support on their learning. Whoop. There we go. And instead of just looking at playing the clicker, you'd be posting the clicker results and asking the students to respond and reflect about what that means. Being a reflective teacher is a lot about what blended instruction is about, and how I can make minor changes to get more engagement and more enthusiasm out of my students. So that's kind of what we're looking for technology integration with blended instruction. It's really taking that instruction to the next level and asking the kids to reflect, to respond, and to analyze what they're looking at. Okay, so in your classroom, you are going in, you're starting in introduction to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. You are going into the introduction to blended learning. You're looking over the assignments 1.1 through 1.4. Those are what, should technically be due before next Wednesday's webinar, but if you need more time, let me know. And now we're to the questions and answers. What do you got? How can I help you?
This is Kimberly Reynolds. My question is, it says no due dates on the Google Classroom. So we just kind of do it as we can in our time frame that we have, right? So yes, from July 1st.
I'm happy to be. Yep, I'm happy to be flexible with you. So if you're running behind, or you're running in, you've got things going on, take the time you need to complete the assignment. Just let me know what's going on.
Just for our pacing, is it about 1 unit a week, or what do you recommend?
It is 1 unit a week.
1 unit a week. Okay, thank you.
And each unit will have 4 assignments.
And we can comment in the stream back to you as well if we have questions.
Absolutely. Correct. Yep. It's a really great tool. I get notified immediately if you post a comment, and I'm usually pretty quick about getting right back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Again, you guys, I'm so sorry I started with Schoology. I apologize. I have 12 courses going on right now, and I just got this one messed up. I'm sorry. I apologize. So I did not mean to waste your time in the Schoology and I apologize. So. All right, so if there aren't any other questions, then you guys are free to go. I will have everything up. It takes about an hour for the webinar to process through everything because it was such a long webinar. So that'll be posted up in your classroom here in about an hour or so. Feel free to get started on your assignments whenever you are ready. And just know that if you need anything, I am here to support you and can't wait to work with you all.
I have a personal question for you.
Sure, Jan.
As an instructional coach, do you recommend focusing this on the PD portion of our job or the instructional coaching aspect of our job?
Well, I think that's really up to you and where you want to put the emphasis. So I think my staff really enjoys and appreciates the fact that I use the blended techniques and strategies for our professional developments, that I'm actually using the strategies that we're talking about because we get through things a lot quicker. If you want to focus on helping your teachers to improve in implementing blended structures, that's fine with you, for me too. It's just whichever one you think is going to be most purposeful for you.
I know that I have a question too. I know there has been talk about the 4th week being optional and that we could do just 3 weeks. Is that something? And then I know you said we wouldn't get a lot of the templates and stuff if we didn't do the 4th week.
That's right. Yeah. So the 4th week is optional, and if you choose to complete the 4th one, what you're going to get is access to the DCW, and that gives you 2 courses that are already completely written with content that just need to be personalized. They go down to, I believe, 4th grade, and you can get different access templates. Resources, all sorts of things. So for 1 more week's worth of work, you could end up having almost a completed classroom that you just need to personalize. It's the courses were written by teachers. So I wrote like the English 7 through 12 courses. So I know that they are high quality courses. And all you have to do is go back in and personalize it to you, like add your names in, add your dates in. The content is there. You just have to put you into it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And Jan, did you have another question? No? Okay.
No.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being patient with me as I was off my rocker. I apologize.